We are live now.
All right, so you should know you're actually live now.
Can you hear us, bro? Equally. Are you aware that we are live now? Okay. I think this is one of the situations we have now is the connection. His connection is also not good.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's why I was asking if you're in Nigeria because your own it seems to be very stable. I think sometimes it depends on the location.
Yeah, location plays into everything.
Yes, yes, yes. It's unfortunate turn of event.
Okay, so we could start a conversation for people that are joining. Maybe he could come pick up where it is.
Y-
Um,
Yes, I
I
have
think
also the
it's something
same.
I've had a personal conversation.
Yes, I think it's very important.
Yeah,
Just that
I've had a
I
personal
don't.
conversation with him, and in as much as I'm a person of faith, so in as much as I'm a person of faith, I've always been fascinated to an extent when it comes to I've always been fascinated to an extent when it comes to the role spirituality plays when it comes to masturbation. Because some people will tell you that it's a physiological thing. It's a thing of the body that
Yeah.
we should leave the innocent devil alone. That we are prone to always attributing everything we do to the devil,
Yes, yes.
right? So they will cite that it's like because sometimes as a sexual and reproductive health educator, you talk to someone and the truth is what I do, I have to draw a line between my morals, my spirituality, my value system, and also as it pertains to medical knowledge. So most times you talk to people medically and you mention to them the possibility of a spirituality in it, and they tell you that there is no spirituality. Some people, not everybody, by the way, some people believe that there is no spirituality in it. That is just it's just a physiological process. So how does spirituality play into this?
Actually, thank you, Sona. Actually, I think masturbation affects in many in all ramifications of life, and the spiritual aspect is one of those aspects that it affects. But as you pointed out, one of the consequences, it has spiritual consequences anyway, but I think it affects us more psychologically, socially, like culturally, than even spiritually. But in terms of spiritual aspect of it, is that it is a sin, and in Catholic Church, it is we say that it is an intrinsic sin, which means that it is a sin in and of itself. So there is no means of justifying it. So it is a sin that is beyond justification. And if you go to the Bible, as of the in the letter of St. Paul to Galatians, I think chapter 5, verses 16 to 17, it says that the flesh wars against the spirit. So this masturbation is like it's a sin between the flesh and the spirit. And most of the people who engage in this act of masturbation, they will discover that within themselves they don't want to do it, but they see themselves doing it. St. Paul will go further to say that I've seen myself doing the very thing I did not want to do, I did not wish to do. Um, though there are few people who are comfortable doing this act of masturbation, saying that it's okay, it's part of life, it's part of growth. But majority of the people, especially those I'm engaging now in the online spiritual direction, within themselves they have repeatedly they have made decision never to go back to this sin, but they see themselves going back to it again. So it's as if they are going against their desire or their decision. So masturbation now often it feeds on lustful thoughts. Like you cannot masturbate without porn, without fantasy, and this weakens our spiritual sensibility. So when you do this act constantly, that sexual urge, we are feeling it. And when you feel that urge, it weakens your spiritual sensitivity. So the more you masturbate, the less you pray. The more you masturbate, the less you are focused in your spiritual journey. So that is one of the things. So these two of them conflict each other. They cannot go together. That's why St. Paul points out that it is a war against the flesh and the spirit. And only one of them can survive. Both cannot survive. So if you are masturbating, you cannot be spiritually stable. And if you are spiritually stable, you cannot masturbate. Even if you can, even if you do, it will be like once in a while or act of mistake. So that is where it comes from.
Okay, so thank you for pointing that because you talked about the compulsion that the spirit you talk about the compulsion that the flesh places on the person that masturbates. Because oftentimes, I say this as somebody who runs a community where it's about sexual and reproductive health. You often have people tell you that we've spiritualized things a lot. That okay, so they would talk about the fact that when you start a habit, your brain in neuroscience, your brain starts to form pathways in terms of forming habits. Now there are as you gain pleasure, especially if it's a habit gaining pleasure like masturbation, your brain starts to form pathways and some hormones are released and some neurotransmitters are released that make you feel good, for example. So they most of them would tend to say that it's more of a force of habit. Like so just like you form habits with other things, like there is somebody who will read to an extent that every single day wants to read, for example, or people who love to listen to music, or people who wants to watch football, for example, that they still keep sticking to this. So this is just giving like a physiological pathway that, in as much as the spirituality is there, there's also the physiological aspect of it, where your body becomes because every activity you start, your body starts to form neural pathways for it. So it's like learning a new language, for example. Your body will soon get to it and make structures to it. So even the same thing happens with masturbation. Thank God you mentioned the fact that you cannot masturbate without lust, right?
Yeah.
So in medical sciences, we call that triggers. There'll always be a trigger. Now the trigger could be what come before the actual masturbation, or the trigger could be what is leading you. Like when we say what comes before the actual masturbation, I'm masturbating because I want to escape responsibilities. There are people that feel like that. I'm masturbating because I cannot face it. I cannot own a relationship. I cannot approach a relationship or have it. So they masturbate. Then there are people that masturbate because they found triggers. Maybe they become sexually excited, whether consciously or unconsciously. So all these things all these things also play in. All right, Mr. Kemini, thank you for joining us. You can take over. We're just having a little conversation around the topic.
Conversation. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so yes, thank you so much. The network is really messing over here, but thank you, Nosakwawo, for taking the lead for me. So yes, about masturbation, Father, I think I heard when you set the tone that yes, it has some level of connection with your spiritual life. Yes, while masturbating, and Nosakwawo, I would really love to know because yeah, I believe masturbation has to do with pleasuring yourself, okay, to satisfy yourself sexually. But then, is it helpful or it's harmful? I would also love to know, being that you are a sexual health educator.
Excuse, I think before Mr. I think he cannot hear me. I think before Mr.
Okay.
Akpo, yeah, go into what you just said, I would like to share some experiences. As a missionary, I've worked in many countries, and I have such many spiritual directions with different people from different parts of the world. So they have different experiences. So I would like to share some. I think it will help him in
Okay.
as a sexual health practitioner to give us
Okay.
more clarity in that. I will give first, like when I was working in the Philippines, and I have this issue, like I was guiding one of the boys. I think he was 14 years at a time. No, it's like 4 or 5 years ago. It was 14 years at the time. He was in high school, and his situation was very heavy that he can masturbate like 3 to 4 times in a day. And he shared some experiences that sometimes he have to take permission from the class just to go to the toilet to do the act and
Toilet,
come back,
yes.
Yeah, so it's very, very much addicted. So I was very curious. I wanted to ask him, I wanted to know how he began such in that young age. So he told me it's a kind of a more or a cultural stuff that he normally do it together as a group with his cousins, because in Philippines they have this culture called the sleepover. They go to their cousin's house or their relative's house to pass the night. So what they do is when they gather together in one of their cousin's house, one of them will bring the phone and out of curiosity they will start to watch it, and to satisfy that urge they will start to do it even openly, as a group. So it's kind of a cultural stuff that I later inquire more that majority of them, the Filipinos, they pass that stage that they always have that groups, watching of porn and masturbation. And if you don't even do it, they will see you as you are weird that you don't do this, we do it. It's common thing among them. So that was when or how he began it. It's a kind of a cultural thing. So he did it with the cousins, and after that he loved the feeling and the pleasure, and he began to do it by himself. And at that tender age, he became very much addicted that he cannot even survive. And within himself, you know that something is wrong. Within himself, you know that this thing is not good, but he cannot stop it because he's living in the bondage of that behavior. He's very much addicted that he doesn't even know how to overcome it, and he's feel also kind of shy to share with others. But I'm a foreigner, so you feel it more free to share with me because I'm not a Filipino. So that is why I wanted to share on that aspect. And also in another one, I think that this one happened early this year. I posted it online about masturbation. Then one young girl, she's 19 years. She chatted me that she's not just addicted to masturbation, but she's addicted to using of this sex toy.
Sex toy, yeah.
And that she's no more even that she's no longer enticing to having intercourse with men. She's like already comfortable with pleasuring herself. She's comfortable with everything she does. So although she know that it is not good, but she doesn't also know how to overcome it. That's what she chatted me. And I was also curious at that younger age how she was able to be deeply addicted to such. So I asked her how her own began, and she told me that it was her mom who taught her. That her mom taught her how to use sex toy. And I could not even believe that. So I have to say, okay, can I speak with your mom? So she called the video call, and I talked with the mom. And the mom, she's very young. She'll be maybe in her early 30s or late 20s. So when I asked her, like, your daughter told me something, and I'm a priest, and your daughter told me something, and I want to confirm if you actually taught her how to use those things. And she was actually very like innocent. She's a Catholic, or she was a Catholic, but I think she's later married to another church. So she respected me as being a priest. So she was open to me, and she told me that Father, I have to teach her this thing. After she's going to do it in the future, so I have to teach her so that she will do it properly. If I didn't teach her, she may make mistake in doing it in the future. So, and I saw that I feel that genuineness in her, that she did it not to spoil the child, but to actually help the daughter so that she will not be misled in the future. But I think that is also another problem of sex education, because that one is a father or a mother does not mean that you have the full knowledge to educate your child about sex education. So you see, this is also another part of cultural influence that can trigger this art. Like this mom, without even knowing the detriment of what she did with her, genuineness and love for the daughter. She have, she have destroyed the sexual life of the daughter by uh, wrongly educating her on how to use these things, which is not even necessary to do. There's other ways or proper ways to do sex education. So you see, these are two criteria. One is a cultural influence that the young people do it within themselves, and another one is a wrong sex education from a genuine mom to the daughter. But two of them triggers this act, and these two guys, though they are staying in a different geographical area, but they are strongly addicted. I think they are the worst case I've ever experienced in my few years of a missionary or being a missionary. They are the worst case I've witnessed so far. So now I will leave it up to you now as a health sex practitioner. What can you say regarding these cultural influences that can trigger or can lead to one starting this act?
Okay, so I want to say that medically, um, masturbation is allowed. That's what I want to say. Medically, especially, but like we say, everything about life, like you said, has to do with culture. Now, why it happens this way is that the bulk of our medical literature is from the western part of the world, and they are quite liberal in quotes on certain things. By the way, so because when I say it's allowed, because there are certain procedures that might require you to masturbate. For example, if you want to go donate sperm or semen, as the case may be, you can be allowed to masturbate. But then you talked about also, I want to approach it from this angle that it's quite individualized. So, okay, let me start medically. Medically, it's allowed. The issue with masturbation comes when it becomes a form of addiction, which most of them is. And that's why we demystify most of the myth about, you hear things, before now you used to hear things like if you masturbate, your hairs will fall off and the rest of them. Now, those way, we don't believe in using fear to educate, right? Because I believe, medical science believe that it's better to give people the fact than they do the right thing. So when people come to me and say, will all those things happen? I tell them it won't happen to you, but then masturbation puts you at a risk of addiction. And in medical science, in personal life, in everything, addiction is bad. Now, the effect of masturbation is more psychological than physical. Apart from few cases, depends on how addicted you are and depends on how you do it. If you're raw, you may have injury to the genitals, as the case may be, right? Or you may have what we call you may lose sensitivity. Basically, that can also happen when we come into the effect. But then that is how it is. But in the context of the story you painted, most people do it, like you said, most masturbators come because of the influence of other people. Now, it could be an influence of the group, like in the first story you said, or it could be influence of peers or influence of environment. Now, the flip side about the lady with the child, you see it very often. Now, we have what we call appropriate sexual health education, right? So it's not just about sex education, it's about how appropriate it is and how relevant it is to the person. So some parents have different ideology, by the way. Unfortunately, you can be sincere and sincerely wrong. The mother felt that she was sincere enough to do that for the child as a way of protection, but it isn't. Right? It's not because already that from the way it sounded, she's already battling with addiction. Earlier this morning, someone came to my podcast page because I run a podcast where I talk about sexual and reproductive health on TikTok and was screaming for help that he has been masturbating for the last 10 years. That as it stands at the moment, he needs to masturbate at least 10 times a day. Right? So already there are a whole lot of possible problems that he is going to have. So the effect of culture is what we're seeing now. The increase and the rise in masturbation is the effect of culture. Now, this culture, the thing is that with internet making the world a global village, there's a whole lot of acculturation, right? Where there's transfer of culture. So the problem is not even our culture as it is. is the fact that children are already being born into a culture that are influenced from the outside. For example, social media, for example, the internet. So, like you said, the image that they are being bombarded with, the videos, the clips on social media, you cannot scroll social media for up to 3 minutes, you're not seeing something relating to nudity and the rest, builds up the foundation of this lust that now start to manifest in a way that we're seeing. So that is the effect that the culture is having. That our culture as a person, when I say not just like people in a geographical location, but a culture as global citizens pushes for this. And until we let people know the psychological effect, even the medical effect, because I mean, like that guy that has to masturbate like 10 times, he runs the risk of suffering from dry orgasm. Possibly, if he does it vigorously, he might injure his genital. Now we don't want to. If we go deeply into the effect it has on relationship, intimate relationship like marriage or whatever it is that you're building with someone. So that is the effect, and also that is how cultural affect plays into this.
Okay. So, yes, I mean, I've actually gotten something. You see that man is a product of his own environment. So that means that to some level, most of the things we are exposed to could also influence the things we can adapt and the things that could become part of us. So, further from your experience, those children actually the child and the cousins there, it goes a long way to show that culture as well could influence there's some certain kind of habits that we imbibe on the long run as individuals. So, and it already automatically, most of them must have, you don't even know if they have actually broken from the chains of such addiction. So Gignos, I would also love to ask you, because if in research, if you search, on this, you should just research about masturbation. Mostly, what they will show you is the the positive. They paint it as, oh, medically there are some benefits, or let's say there are certain things you gain, once you masturbate. But really, I want you to, also educate us, or expose us to, because already this has been titled "Hidden Secrets About Masturbation." So help us know the secrets that is involved in those harmful, experiences a person that is masturbating will face. Those harmful, experiences he or she may be exposed to while masturbating. How is it harmful to an individual?
All right. So first thing I want to say that a whole lot of research, not a whole lot of it's human nature. We're quite biased by default. So our biases stem from our belief systems, our values, our culture, what we're indoctrinated, right? So that's why, for example, let me use a very classical example. You give people of different ethnic groups or different tribes to write about a particular thing like fidelity in marriage. They're going to write different things, and they will bring evidence to support it, right? But then medically, like I said, with the literature, now the thing is, like I'll keep saying again, first, if I'm taking away, because what influences people's decision is their belief system.
Okay.
Now, your belief system is individualized. That's your own thing. But when we're looking at it from a medical point of view, away from the belief system. So let's say you can do it or you cannot do it. Let's forget belief system, right? Every time you every time you masturbate, it first comes with pleasure, because one of the things that comes with masturbation is guilt. But guilt is not a standalone feeling. I can only feel guilty of something that what I would call my conscience has convicted me. So that would mean that if I don't have certain belief system that will convict me, I can't feel guilty. So it's not everybody that feels guilt. So now when you're interacting with somebody that is masturbating, first you need to know that. But then, like I said, if we're looking at the physical issues of it, yes, it's not good. But then, yes, they say it's good. That's what the literature say. But then, just like every form of sexual act, like I'll keep saying, there are possible things that could go wrong. I've talked about that. If it's vigorous enough, it can lead to trauma to the genitals, whether it's the vagina, whether it's the penis, right? So sometimes you're rubbing it too much that you bruise it. You're rubbing it too much that it leads to penile fracture. You're rubbing it too much that you injure the vagina or the clitoris, whatever it is that it's in the picture, right?
Yes.
So that's good. Now we also look at loss of sensitivity. And when we talk about loss of sensitivity, is the fact that every genital region is sensitive. Now, the sensitivity between me and you differs from person to person. But then we know that when a particular part is stimulated to an extent, it is not as sensitive as it was before. That's why the first splatter of the rain feels colder, but subsequent one at a certain point it may not feel again. Right?
Yes.
Because that's how your body is. Your body is meant to adjust. So certain people, especially people who are chronic, their body parts, for example, their penis, their clitoris, may start to lose sensitivity. So what that means is that it becomes what we call tolerance in medical science. That you need an increased amount or an increased dose of a particular thing. Okay, so what that means is that you need a higher amount of something to get the same effect you used to get when it was smaller. So, for example, maybe you used to touch yourself like this and you have pleasure, but now because of loss of sensitivity, you have to touch it very deeply or maybe 5 times to get the same
God.
pleasure you used to get
Yes.
for touching once. So that is one of some of the issue. Now we go to the psychological part. Now, this psychological part, even away from guilt, things like guilt and shame that is quite individualized based on belief. We now have the issue of addiction, which is at the core of masturbation. People become addicted to it, and that is at the core of it. Now, this addiction now means that it cuts across from your personal life to your relationship with people. See, there is no form of addiction that is good, no matter how much they paint it. I don't know what it is you want to be addicted to, but none of it is good. So that's the core of what happens in masturbation. And then it affects interpersonal relationship with people. So in the context of relationship, partner, spouses,
Yes, partners.
because you're used to pleasuring yourself, you get. So that is some of the effect that we have when it comes to that.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much. Father, you see, there's something that really got me from your profile. So when I went through your profile, you specifically, wrote there that you preach to those that have been broken. You also pay attention to those people may consider to be, these ones are stained, these ones are not holy, these ones are not clean. That you really single out those set of persons as your own safe heaven, your space. That is the people God have called you to to do what? To minister life, to minister hope into their destinies. And so, Father, you see, one issue that the church has actually faced over time is the approach in handling or addressing situations like this. I know the first question I would have asked you is to know if masturbation is a sin. But then I believe maybe towards the introductory part, you must have established that, because I know anything that has to do with any sexual life that is not linked to marriage or which is ordained by God is actually a sin, any activities like that. But then coming here, you see that if we see victims like this, particularly people that have been, addicted to pornography and, masturbation like this is how we get to see them. Even the church that serves as a place where you can, your last place of hope, your last place that you can gain support, the last place that you can gain, listening ears from people, listening to you, calling you back to them to themselves as their home. Some of them may do what? They push you away, making you to feel as if you actually killed a human being. So now, as a priest with many years of experiences, you've actually been exposed. You have first-hand relationship with kind of victims How do you handle situations like this, especially if someone is, really, really addicted to masturbation? How do you, as a priest, a man of God, how do you handle situations like that? Do you condemn the person? Which approach do you use to call the person back to God?
I think that is also a nice question, and I agree with what you say that some people are not very much approachable when it comes to this, because I have experience of people telling me that they met somebody like a priest or a pastor and trying to tell him his struggle and looking for a spiritual direction, but he didn't get any. And some they tested him and they did not reply. I think the first aspect is to make yourself approachable. To make yourself
Okay.
available. Like you cited about the team in my Facebook page that I'm available for the sinners,
For the
for any
sinners,
for all, yeah, for sinners,
most
for all kind of
especially
people.
sinners.
Yes, and I was able to even point out the prostitute, addict, and all those things, and that is actually help because
Yes. I mean,
these few
I was really
days,
surprised.
yeah, these few days I get not even few days up to now I get like many messages every day regarding that, and though I cannot be able to respond to all of them, so I
So, oh,
sometimes
yeah,
I
I
try
understand.
to to do the much I can, and also if it's in those who have a very critical or chronic addiction, I will refer them to meet a professional. So that's why they approach me, just because I made myself approachable. Like the one I mentioned, the guy in the Philippines, he has many Filipino priests, he has many foreigners in the Philippines that he can meet. But why did he meet me? I think he met me after the mass. And in my, I don't even know specifically what I said in the comedy that made him to, try to open up to me. But I think I try my possible best to make myself available to the people. So whenever I preach, I don't preach as if I'm a saint preaching to sinners, but I preach as a
Mm,
sinner preaching to sinners. That's why in one of my
to
posts
sing.
I wrote that I'm a sinful priest who is in a mission for sinners. So you see, so you have to put yourself in a place that people will know that you can understand them.
Mm,
But when you have a very high spirituality, people will feel uncomfortable to approach you. So that is what I've learned. It's not basically because I'm young, I understand the generation, the younger generation, but because I, doing my posting, my articles, my preaching, I try to make people understand that this thing you are doing, I experience it, I overcome it. So I'm talking to you out of experience, not out of what I read. So I have that material, the knowledge to help you. So and also I try to make them understand that you're not sinner. We are all sinners. So you're not worst.
mm,
Just that you need a small help to come back. Because at one point in life we all make mistakes. But we realize our mistake, we overcome it, and we become better than who we are. So when somebody approached me first for this for direction or regarding addiction, the first thing I ask them is their age. How old are you? That is the first thing I ask them. Because age determines. For example, if somebody is 14 years and he or she does masturbate maybe 2 to 3 times in a day, in a month, psychologically it is understandable that he is still in that age of sexual exploitation, trying to
mm,
understand sexuality, his own sexual orientation, and all those things. So it is psychologically understandable, even though it is a sin, but it is a sin that can be outgrown. So in that kind of situation, I don't see it like a more psychological problem. I try to give it like a more of spiritual encouragement, not condemnation. That yes, you are young. This is natural to come, because of course it is natural. It is not entirely evil. It becomes detrimental when you are addicted to it. So I try to make them not to feel guilty. One of the major things that come from my masturbation is that the feeling of guilty, that you are dirty,
mm,
you are worst, you are not righteous, you will be condemned. So I try to talk them out of that guilt, that yes, this is a sin. That is not, we cannot argue about that. It is a sin, but it's a sin that comes from our own human weakness. And God created us, and God put that human weakness in us. So God understands that sometimes our human weakness will manifest. So don't see yourself as dirty. Just see that this is your human weakness overcoming you. So you have to try to build yourself in a level that you can be able to handle this your human weakness. And so far that you are young, you have that potential to overcome it. So don't worry. Just do your best and always come for confession and always seek for spiritual direction. So you see, I try to motivate them to make effort, because if you try to condemn them in that stage, that younger stage, they will forever see themselves as always dirty, always guilty, or as the worst sinners. So I try my best to explain to them that this is a natural occurrence that you have to outgrow. Actually, many people overcome this masturbation not because of their spirituality, but because they overgrown it. So maybe just overgrown it. So when they are very young, I try to explain that to them. But when they are like, if I ask the age and they are between 23, 25, 27, no, now they have getting to a particular stage in life that they have to control their sexual life. They have to know what they want and how to get it. So if they are still masturbating in that age, although no matter the age they are, we can never condemn. But now in that stage, in that 25, 27, I have to be more practical in telling them that no, if you don't overcome this now, it will be a future problem, not just to yourself, but also in your relationship. Because when you are addicted to it, it's not just a problem, a personal problem. Even though it's a personal act, you do it by yourself and nobody sees you. But in the long run, it affects your life, your sexual life, your life with your partner, your what's it called? Your wife, your spouse. So I try to tell them that this is, if you don't overcome it, this is what you have to face in the future. So now they have to make decision to actually try their possible best to overcome it, to control it. Then, but in some cases, I do refer them, some people, to meet medical professionals, because I'm not, I'm like a para counselor. So in cases like somebody is 35 years, 40 years, and he's still addicted to masturbate, I say no. This is, you don't need a spiritual direction. You need a professional guidance. So in such stage, when I ask the age and they are 40, 50, I always recommend it to meet a professional, because now it is a kind of a more, it is now a more of a psychological problem than a spiritual problem. Because if you are going to be honest to ourselves, this act, it affects us more psychologically than spiritual.
That's spiritual,
Because,
yeah.
yeah, in a day you can go to confession, you can make the act of contrition, you can pray, you can reconcile with God in a day, in an hour. You can do everything in an hour and you are close to God. But if you are addicted, it takes longer time for you to overcome the urge. So you see, it's more difficult to reconcile yourself psychologically than spiritually. So I don't normally judge it only as a spiritual problem. I try to wage it. If it affects your life more psychologically, then we have to treat it psychologically. So it's like brother already said, you don't spiritualize it. Yeah, so you can, yeah, it affects spiritually, but the effect it has psychological and socially also in your relationship with others is more detrimental than that of spiritual aspect, if you are going to be honest with ourselves. So, and many people, they have that desire to always come back to God, and God is always merciful, always forgiving, always welcoming, no matter what. Even if you do it 10 times in a day, God will forgive you 10 times in a day. But your social life is affected, your psychological, the focus, you lose
The
that
focus, yes.
So all those things needs time to build again. But when you masturbate, you destroy those energy that help you to focus. And if you want to build that energy again, that focus again, that eagerness again, it takes longer time to do it. That's why,
Okay.
last time I did this online section. I invited many people, like medical practitioners, the nurses, the sociologists, and all those things. Because all these people, all these professionals, it's not just something like, it's father's work. It's what we have to do as a group. So that is how I approach it. Even though it has a spiritual detriment, but I also try to look at the social and the psychological effect that comes with it.
Psychological aspect. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, Father. So thank you so much, Father. Before we actually promise that within an hour time we try to call this a wrap. But then let me move to Nosakwawo, because Father, you've actually established the fact that beyond this, it really affects us psychologically more than the spiritual life, because you can still be masturbating at the same time, you can still pray, you can still be, committing, carrying out your spiritual, activities and communion with God, but then the aspect of your life, your engagement beyond the church is actually affected. So, Nosokwawo, you see, currently now they are trying to bring in this section. Initially, the concept of sexuality, educating people about sexual orientation, sexual life and all those things was not really, laudable. It wasn't really, overemphasized while growing up, but then I think in the recent time they are trying to see how we, at some certain level, at some certain stages in life, or maybe secondary school, or maybe the primary, there are basic things we know about, our own reproductive system and reproductive organs. So do you think masturbation, because sexuality education has come to stay in secondary school, so but do you feel that masturbation is something they could also infuse inside the syllables, at least so that they can teach the children? And if so, let's also know at what stage should this be exposed to students? Is it student in the secondary or at the nursery level or primary level? Sorry.
All right. So I want to say this and this again. In sexual and reproductive health education, so there's something we call age appropriate sexual and reproductive health education. So there's a sexual and reproductive health education depending on age. Now, even this age is not generalized because people of the same age may be at different developmental stages, maybe based on their intelligence and so many other factors. But then,
Mm,
if we're looking like Father said, the context of masturbation starts with puberty because that's when the urge
okay.
comes.
Mm,
That's when the feelings comes most times. Now, this is a clear exception, except for people who were abused as children.
mm,
So we have that state of people that would, because if you notice, especially on social media now, we are having a whole lot of things coming out about same-sex abuse, aunties abusing nieces, uncles abusing nephews. So that's a separate thing entirely. But then, if it's in the context of sexual and reproductive health education, I don't think masturbation should be taught as a thing.
okay.
As a thing, it's not as a topic on its own to be taught, but masturbation should be taught as part of what is being taught,
Oh,
right? Because I've noticed that the emphasis has been on sexual relationship,
sexual,
especially
yeah, sexual reproductive
heterosexual
health.
relationship. I don't know if
Yes.
we're purposely as people wanting to turn a blind eye to the fact that there is an increase in homosexual relationships and also increase in sexual pleasure. See, I knew it used to be because I know of an elderly, I want to call her that, an elderly acquaintance of mine. She's in her early 30s, who told me, in fact, for me, I used to think that sex toys was a thing of just yesteryears, just few years ago. But she told me
Mm,
that as at the time she's like 32 or so. So if she was using sex toys as way back as her junior secondary school, that should throw it back to almost roughly 15 to 20 years ago,
mm,
right? If she was using it then, because that's when she told me she started using it. She said she went to an all girls school. Her school mother, in quotes, was the one that used to use it on her, right? So these things are happening. And maybe it's because I'm not trying to say that it only happens, but she's a little bit from a wealthy family. So she went, because at first I wanted to wonder how children of that age could afford sex toys. Not now that it's quite a
sex
common
toys.
thing. Yeah, but I feel she could. because she's from a well-to-do family, by the way. So if children of then, so that means this thing has been running. So it's, if it was then, that means it can happen now. So there's a need for us to, when we're talking about, it is not a time for mothers to always say, when a man touches you, you get pregnant. No, it's not just men touching girls now. It's not just men touching girls now. Men are touching fellow boys. Women are
Follow
touching fellow
boys, my
women.
brother.
Women are
Hmm.
touching boys, right? So let's not just pocket all of our discussion into a heterosexual relationship, especially of the same
Hmm.
age. Don't go to that. No, 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 no. I'm seeing older women abuse younger boys. So you can teach, because it's even better for ladies that are teaching them because they feel they are more prone to abuse, which I don't agree with the fact they are more likely to be abused. Nobody's educating a boy child. Though. I went to a couple of months ago. I went to a meeting in my city in Uyo. It was just a meeting for guys. It was like a round table for guys to discuss stuff. And I saw about five guys. Unfortunately, I don't want to say unfortunately, but in the city of Uyo, there are a little bit well-to-know guys in Uyo talked about how they were abused as children. I'm talking people being abused from age of 4, 6, right? So these things are happening now. So I identify these things and talk about also masturbation. Because one of the ways these abusers work is that sometimes to make it easier for them, they make the child, whether they get or the boy, to pleasure themselves so that their brain will form that, will have a notion of that pleasure so that when they
Yeah,
approach, it
that
becomes easier.
sensation.
Yeah, so it's not something you just address and be like, when you're doing, we call it comprehensive sexual and reproductive health education. All these are
Hmm.
part of it. Address it too.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I'm actually speechless because I can still remember some time ago, a very big brother of mine, Mr. Jackie Africana, actually embarked on this movement on schools because, yes, when International Day of the
Yeah,
Girl Child comes,
Jackie Africana was also in that, movement.
yes, when International Day of the Girl Child, they will shout at girl child and sexual girls are raped. Do you know the number of boy child that are raped, that have been raped and that have been abused by people that are called caregivers, aunties? For crying out loud, let's wake up. And so it makes it obvious that maybe we are not actually speaking up. And most times these persons are actually affected. It affects their relationship as they are growing. Imagine if you were abused at the age of 6 by a 26-year-old lady. What will be your view when you are 20, 25, or 30? Who will you relate with? The older women. You'll be attracted to them. So you see how a young man will approach a married woman or a woman in her late 40, 45 to check her, having you, and you'll be wondering where did he get the temerity from, the boldness. I mean, so it's something that we really need to wake up on this sensitization. I really calling out parents because I believe, Father, there's a huge role we need to play in the church, much in homilies, especially on the Holy Family, which is always towards is it September or October, towards that, sorry, November, towards that period, Feast of the Holy Family. That particular day, I believe it's a day that we should actually bring in preachings like this, call parents to sit back and look at the family relationship, because most of us must have been going through this, but we can't open up to our parents, especially if we have parents that are really what, authoritarian. I mean, like my late father, there's certain nonsense you can't say. You cannot just vomit that rubbish from your mouth, not to talk of the mom. So I believe our parents now are actually bringing an approach that we cannot open up to them. And so there is a need for us to inform African parents that there's a need to move from that 19th century, parenting style to a parenting style that will, accommodate and will bring in your child closer to you, so that you won't hear certain things that your child have been going through for many years in the mouth of another person outside. And it will be very shameful. It will be very so heartbreaking that you as the father, you as the mom, is completely, oblivious of this particular knowledge. Nothing like this occurred to you. The child did not say this. He or she went through this particular journey all through. So, Father, lastly, I would love to also ask you because, yes, during courtship, courtship before marriage, somehow most of the partners, I know we have marital classes, courses, which in our church we ensure that you are on the right track. But then, as humans, the heart of human, there are certain things he or she may hide, but if either the lady or the man should see such kind of, this kind of attitude, this kind of habits in marriage, what do you advise as a priest, as someone that is, meant to shape our life spiritually? What is your guide? What is your advice to such couple? Is it because at some point, if the it's not compatible, if that one is addicted, it may cause this other person who maybe she has been raised in that aspect of self-discipline, she has not been used to that, she may decide to walk out of the marriage. So what do you advise?
Actually, it's funny thing because we live in a very different world, I would say. The world we experienced when I was growing up is not what we are having now. So I will always tell younger couples this: before you start to bring in life, before you start to give birth, don't only plan to buy the child clothes, the milk, the diapers, and all those things. No, you need to have an education on how to train your child. You need to have that knowledge. I tell people it is very important that you are a father, that you are a mother, does not mean that you have the knowledge to train your child properly. And most of the time, we use those patterns that we experienced when we are growing up. That we are being trained this way does not mean that it is the best way to train a child.
To train children.
Yes. So like last time I went to Nigeria. That should be on February. I was having my first mass, and I asked people, the congregation, do you still use like you stick to your slippers to punish your child when he or she misbehave? One of them said yes. I said no. You can't do that now in this world, because when you do those one, you make the child to be timid, to be fearful, not to be very much open to you. So these ways, they are the I would say outdated way of child upbringing.
Parenting, yes.
Or parenting. So we need to change those patterns. But the problem now of this modern parents, that they try to use the same pattern that they experience when they are growing up. So I always encourage them, meet a professional what's it called, parenting guide
Yes,
or
yes,
coach,
yes.
which they are very common these days. You can even meet them online, and they have some programs in YouTube that you can watch. But it is very important as a young couple to have some classes on how to parent your child. You cannot do it with your knowledge, because psychology, we have a different psychological understanding now. So you need to be updated on that. So it's very important. But people don't take it lightly. They think that training a child is just paying the school fees and punishing him or her when they
Providing food,
misbehave,
buying
and
buying
providing
buying
food and
school
buying clothes.
school uniform
Yes,
and
they think
books.
it's just like that. But there are more to it. No, sometimes you can ask if a parents, what is your plan for the summer break of a child? They will tell you that I will send him or her to what's it called, to summer classes to have milk.
Mm,
But this is not a summer plan. You need to have a detailed plan. Spending enough time with your children, and
for
trying to
children, yes.
build the relationship with them. But we don't have that time these days. And most families, surprisingly, they have this. In Philippines, they say nanny, like these caregivers. So you see, in the morning, the father goes out early, the mom goes out, the children are left behind with the house help. So it's not the parent and the child, it's the help. So what kind of morality is the house help implanting on those children? The parents, they're not aware of it. So I will always encourage them, before you start to bring life into this world, you have to be prepared. You have not just financially, not just spiritually, but also psychologically. You have to acquire the knowledge on how to be a good parent to your child. So it's very important. And I always tell them, go and have some classes or some sections with this parenting coach. It will help you to help, because we are priests. We have the knowledge, we can give you the ideas, but we don't have the complete knowledge, all it takes. So don't always depend on priests. But most of them depend on priests. You can see after the mass, they will come to you, they say, Father, this my child did this and that, and can you help me to talk to him? That is okay. We can help to advise your child on that. But in some aspect, you don't need a priest to do that. You need a professional to do that. Because we have the knowledge, because we did psychology, philosophy, sociology, we do all those things, we did counseling, we have it, but we need a professional who is very specialized in that aspect to help you. So I always come to us. We are priests, we can help you, but in some cases, go to specialists and get help from them. It's very important as well.
Okay, Father, thank you so much. So yes, this has been a very rewarding time, and I have actually learned a whole lot of things from this conversation, because it is not scripted. It is coming from the heart to you. So if you have been, facing this phase in your life where you are actually stuck in a situation where you can't find help, yes, this is one particular live session that will help you break away from the chain of addiction. It may not really. I really sincerely want to apologize for the guidance counselor that was to join us as well. Network, I mean, Nigeria partially has happened to us. Network, actually, I wish she's, she's here. I mean, she would have actually showed us, exposed us to that aspect of the addiction, the addiction, and how to break freely from it. Is it something like you can just break completely, or is something that is gradual, over time, step by step, a little better every day, you will be completely free? She would have shared that with us, but I believe there will be part 2 of this. But before we call it a wrap, Nosakwawo, what do you have to, share first to your viewers out there and to those that are addicted to this masturbation?
So basically, I'm going to say from my heart, from what I'm saying, they'll tell you they'll tell you there's nothing in it, but there is something in it. There is addiction in it. There are physical and psychological effects in it. Like I usually say, most people do it out of curiosity, but before you know it, just like as usual, you get trapped inside of it. If you don't want to test it, don't smell it, please. Try to avoid smelling it. That's just what I would say. And if you know you're already in it, seek help. That's the only thing I can do. Thank you.
If you don't want to test it, don't even perceive it. And if you know you're into it, try as much as possible to do what? To seek help. Lastly, from one influential priest that has actually, you and Father Kelvin, I can't miss my day. I start my day with your post and I end it with my post. With your post, I cannot try to miss my own day without, feeding from your article and Father Kelvin, because the 2 priests that have actually refined social media, using that platform to educate, to correct the ills in the society, actually post out concern on certain issues that are really going on in the society. So then, Father, you actually serving in Ati currently. Father is actually working with the missionary of Cotonou Brothers, I think, of Jesus. Yes, I think I've gotten that correctly. So Father initially served in South Korea and is actually moved to a new station now where he is, you may be hearing about this missionary for the first time. They actually look out for, they devote time to love, to care for, people, mostly the needy, the beggars, the less privileged, those that have been broken. So Father, lastly, please, before you bless us, in fact, bless us with your final message.
Yeah, I'll do that. Actually, to everybody who have joined us this evening, I will tell you this: you are not alone in this journey. We are together in this journey. So don't feel guilty. We all pass through that stages. We all experience it, and we overcome it. So we are not telling you based on what we read in textbooks. We are telling you based on life experience. You know, sometimes you think that it's not possible, that you cannot overcome it, but I will tell you that it is possible and you can overcome it. But the first thing I want you to do is acknowledge that you have this problem. Don't hide it.
Mm.
No, many people don't
Don't hide
hide
it.
from it.
Oh.
Yes. Freedom begins with acknowledging that you have this habit. Don't be too ashamed to acknowledge it. It's very important. Hiding it will empower it. When you hide it, you are captive to it, you are a slave to it. And another thing is you cannot overcome this alone. You need a mentorship. You need a mentor. You need somebody to guide you. So you need to open up. And for you to open up, you need to acknowledge that you have this habit and you need to open up to somebody to guide you. Don't try to fight this alone. So I think there are many platforms online where you can meet people. But I had some stories where someone met somebody for mentorship, and the person end up doing the same act to her. So I think you don't just meet anybody for mentorship. Yeah, you don't just meet anybody for mentorship. It's for
Meet the
yourself. You
right
can
and the
meet a
appropriate person.
Yes, you can meet a priest or you can meet a professional because I believe they take oath, so they cannot go against their work. So you can meet a professional who will stick to his or her duty as a professional in guiding you. But don't just meet anybody you see because you trust the person and believe in. We live in a very strange world, so be careful of the person you are going to meet. But you have to acknowledge it and you have to look for somebody to guide you. So, and you are always in my prayer. I always pray for you.
Okay, fantastic, amazing, inspiring, uprooters. It has been. Oh my God, I don't know where to start, but I really want to thank most especially Nosa Kwawo. Nosa Kwawo is a good brother of mine. I mean, other ghosts, or more guests, the man had a very hectic day, but as the network tried to, frustrate frustrate us earlier on, the man would have just, oh, what this guy is doing, but then he actually started this being a fantastic host, the host of intimate matters. If you are actually, hearing of intimate matters for the first time, they talk about, they answer any question which you have difficulty in sexual and reproductive health, your ejaculation, is it the addiction that we have been screaming about here from the past minutes? Is it issue with erectile dysfunction? You are not performing well, you are not doing well, you are not doing better. Fine. Please go to Intimate Matters. That is the right place. Father talked about mentorship. Just look person for road, say, I need help, I need help. Go to Nosakwa, will give you the help you need, because he's a right person I can recommend for this. And Father Ye is an influential. In fact, I don't think is a name, is our own BDM. He's our own BDM. So Father is using his platform not just to educate persons, but he's actually coming up to, expose the ills in the society. And I love such fearless approach where, a man of God coming out to see the truth and say the truth. And so if you are actually, seeing Father for the first time, Father Prince Chidi is actually serving Hattie, and you can also jump on his Facebook page every time to read his articles. I love reading his articles. The one he wrote about, sexual issues among the priests, and the one he wrote about the seminary, formation, everything. I mean, exposing the ills even from our own space, the church. So, Father, lastly, please bless us so that we end the live session.
Okay, peace be with you. May Almighty God bless all of you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye bye, Father.
And good
Thank
night.
you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Good
Yeah.
night. God bless you.
Okay.
Thank you, Uproots people. Good night.